See, it sounds mint even when you're just doing gentle acceleration. Alright, we all know how I'm supposed to start this video, right? Alright then, well, now that the Top Gear nonsense is out the way with, let's get the what car nonsense out the way with too. This is the Audi RS 5. It costs £69,660 ROTR MSRP. Yes, I got all that right. And that's if you want it as a two-door coupe, or a coupe if you're American. But you can now also buy it as a five-door Sportback, or Sportsback in American. Also for £69,660 ROTR MSRP. Yep, in a rare fit of corporate generosity, Audi is giving RS5 buyers 2 extra doors for free. And so, to continue with this consumer peregrination, yep, that's a word. If you buy the Sportback version, you'll get a whopping 15 litres more boot space and, more significantly, an actually whopping gaping hole in the back. Also, you'll get a decidedly not whopping, but arguably even more significant, 60mm of extra wheelbase. Yep, not for the first time the buyer of a fast Audi will find themselves pondering a 2.5-inch length when choosing their new car. Because that's how much extra leg space you're getting. I don't know what you were thinking like. Doesn't sound like much, right? But the Sportbacky bits really are the difference between this feeling like a bona fide family car or feeling like a space-deficient sports car. It's what you do with it that counts and all that. And the fact that you can have this car as a Sportback now has really altered the landscape of the RS5 model in general. That's because it opens up the RS5 to the family car market, to thrusting dads, if you like. Sorry, I know that women buy these too, but as ever, the stereotype makes the much funnier line. Imagine if I'd said mums and dads who thrust. Sick! Anyways, it means that if you are currently the driver of, say, a Mercedes C63 AMG, or a BMW M3, or that Alfa Quadrifoglio thing, or maybe even some sort of Jaguar, you can now look at one of these too. Because look! All of them are very similar in terms of horsepowers and performance and price. Apart from that one. That's not a typo, that's actually how much the Jaguar costs. And so just to finalise this consumer section before we go on to the good stuff, by which I of course mean random internet clips that I think of while I'm sat down to edit this thing with zero deference to copyright law.
God, Johnny, aren't you even in the slightest bit cold? No, not at all. I'm sweating like a pig, man.
Audi has decided to sell just 500 of these in the UK, split evenly, 250 coupe and 250 Sportback, giving it an air of exclusivity. The cynical person might suggest that that's about the number that Audi expects to sell anyway, but not me. And they're all in a specification called Audi Sport, and if you forget that, then you can remind yourself of it by opening the door. Cool, eh? No? Okay then. It's an Audi RS5 with the gloss black kitchen sink thrown at it, basically. The badges and bits down the side and the mirror caps and stuff. Big ass 20-inch rims and seats that are made of leather and suede. Now I'm not sure if I like it, to be honest. I think it looks a bit messy and a bit cheesy occasionally, but the people that I showed it to over the last week, they did. Generally. So maybe that's just me. Other kitchen sinks are thrown into the car's general direction too, including LED lights all over the shop, inside and out, MMI navigation plus, including smartphone connectivity. In fact, the only thing you can really spend any extra money on is a fancy stereo. And you probably should, because it's really good. And that includes Audi giving you all the good dynamic stuff for free. Well, building it into the price. You know how it is. Yeah, so that's adaptive damping, a sports differential, and the so-called RS Sports exhaust system. An exhaust system that makes the car sound like... And that's all lovely and everything, and it is by volume the thing that you will most enjoy about this car. By volume, figuratively and literally. But actually, the differential is the thing that most affects the driving experience here. So as you'll see and no doubt totally understand from watching this old Audi educational video, those coggy things are a differential, and that little thing underneath is an electric motor connected to control valves for the left and the right clutches linked to the axle shafts. This setup can distribute torque to individual wheels depending on various factors including steering angle and available grip. or something. Bottom line, it makes this thing turn in better, and that helps the car feel far more agile and fun to drive than I think it gets credit for. Audis in general, but especially the serious ones like this, are plagued by this reputation for feeling a bit dull, a bit numb. R8 aside, obviously, because that thing's always been brilliant in every way and has had that reputation, justifiably so. Fast Audis carry this rep for being about straight line speed to the detriment of everything else. And sure, the Alfa Giulia Quadra thingy-majig absolutely tears up the metaphorical dance floor dynamically compared to this thing. But it does compare to most things, to be honest, and you can definitely put aside any notion that this is Anne Widdecombe to the Alfa's Fred Astaire. This is more like, I don't know, I don't watch any of those dancing programs, sorry. Having said that, no matter how good this thing may be to drive, and it really is, and we'll come back to that, it is always going to be overshadowed by the engine, because the engine is amazing. And that's despite it having a mere 6 cylinders. The first RS5 had 8 cylinders, as does today's Mercedes C63. And while the Fast Alfa only has half a dozen, it is well established that those 6 cylinders come from Ferrari, so... Doesn't matter though, because this engine, despite being weirdly short of the 3-litre mark, was developed with Porsche, and you can definitely feel that and hear it. It is a free-breathing mentalist of an engine, and it is utterly sensational, and I'm sorry if I've said that before when I was ad-libbing, but it is. Now I know I keep going on about the Alfa, but it's just a really nice reference point because it's so good. What I will say is that it's been a while since I drove that car, and I do remember it sounding great. I mean, that engine is something special, but I can't imagine that it sounded that much better than this. CLK 500, yeah, we'll have you. It's all loud and angry and bassy and thunderous, and it sends the car pinging to 62 in less than 4 seconds. It's one of those engines that feels really free breathing. It's really fun to be right at the top of the rev range in it, right near the rev limiter, but also it's, I mean, sorry man, I got a bit distracted there because you can feel the car being pulled round from the back there. And for a Quattro, for something that's not rear wheel drive, that just feels a bit special. I know it's my job to put these experiences into words, but it is hard to get across quite how much fun this is and how well balanced it feels. Anyway, back to the engine. It is a seriously brilliant, very seriously engineered engine, this engine. And that's despite the fact that in purest terms, this is disappointingly devoid of cylinders. I have to say though, even though I'm not supposed to say this, that I'm not bothered about that. It's more powerful, it has much more torque, so it feels much quicker from the off, and it is no longer catastrophically inefficient. And if you really are wedded to the whole old school thing, then you might be pleased to know that Audi has ditched the twin clutcher automatic and instead given it an 8-speed torque converter. Very old school. It does seem like a slightly unusual decision on the face of it, although it does make gear changes far less jerky at low speeds. And even when you are going quicker, the shifts are so quick that only a real sycophant would complain. A sycophant! But if this was only about the engine and the speed, then we would have another typical fast Audi thing happening here. As in the sort of car that you'll only want because you can tell your mates how fast it is and how big the wheels are.
No way!
This doesn't have the distinctly rewarding and potentially terrifying rear-wheel drive balance that the other cars that you might be thinking about do, you know, the stuff from Alfa, BMW, Mercedes. But what it does have is otherworldly agility. You can throw this car into a corner fairly recklessly and you can feel what it's doing. You can feel the diff working and you can feel the Quattro system giving you that grip. And it is proper enjoyable in its own very distinct way. Does really turn in nicely, this thing. It does actually have something of a feel of the old Imprezas in that sense. It's a lot more sophisticated than they were, but in that way that you can just ping it into a corner and feel the electrics and the differential doing their thing, just pulling the car around, you know. It is absolutely brilliant, and it is something that can be enjoyed really without feeling like you're on the edge of what you can do and what the car can do. And it has feel, right? Proper feel. There is a risk with a car like this that's four-wheel drive and it's really clever that you then lose that mechanical feel. You end up being a passenger to the experience almost. Yeah, sure, you're the one turning the wheel, but you're not getting the signals through your arse and through your hands. Thankfully with this, turning that thing is as much fun as planting your right foot down. That's what makes it feel like a complete sports car. Is it as much fun as the other cars that I keep mentioning? Well, no. It's not as edgy or as raw as they are, especially the Alpha. But in its own less terrifying sort of a way, I think it's more satisfying most of the time. The other thing about this is that it's very easy to live with, especially the Sportback one, obviously, but you know, in all cases, it's quiet on the motorway. You can quieten the exhaust down if you like, and you can soften the suspension, so that makes it just feel pretty much like a standard Audi coupe / 5-door hatchback. And the seats are comfortable rather than squeezing your moobs together like a Wonder Bra. And all that despite the fact that it goes quicker than a first gen R8. In that context, it's all very civilized. There are a couple of things to note though. So if you have the coupe one, which this one is as it happens, you do get quite a lot of wind noise at higher speeds from the B pillar here, which is probably to do with the fact that it's got frameless doors. And actually the Sportback has frameless doors too, so I guess it's going to be a problem for that as well. Also, even in its softest setting, this is hardly a spongy experience. Like, one of the things that gives it away as a proper performance car is the fact that it's always rumbling away, and the fact that it's on 20-inch tyres doesn't help, and they're standard. You can't get smaller wheels. I know you won't want smaller wheels, but if you're really that bothered about comfort, you're going to have to buy your own smaller wheels. Plus this sunroof, which you also get a standard, that eats into headroom, so if you're a bit taller like me, it does feel like the roof's sat on top of your bonds. There is headroom there, but it does contribute to this feeling that you're a little bit cramped. And the steering feels a bit heavy. It is heavier than you'd get in a standard A5, and it means that when you're just going around town, it takes a lot of effort to get the thing swinging left and right. Well, not actually a lot of effort, but again, it's something that gives this away as a high performance car rather than it being an easy luxury car or a town car. And then the last thing, and again, this is only a problem in context, this was designed before the latest round of Audi stuff, like the Q3 and the Q8, for example, and they're really screen heavy. They're just designed a lot more modern than this is. And this is fine, it's all really well built, it looks really lovely, and it's ergonomically perfect, but in that context, it does feel a little bit last generation, because it is. Ultimately, it's just really good, you know? It does have depth. But I think if I had a 70 grand budget and I was looking for a car like this would actually be the fourth one down. The Alpha's got that Ferrari saloon vibe, and the BMW is the BMW. The Mercedes, I think that looks great, and that engine is phenomenal. So as good as this is, and as much as I do genuinely love it, I don't think this is the one I would buy, sadly. And I'm done. Thanks for watching, appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And also, please understand that if you're going to say something mental in the comments, you might get a reply. So, you know, do it, we'll have some fun. Cheers, see you later, bye.